Right now, beneath 8 American states, Kansas, Nebraska, Colorado, Oklahoma, Texas, New Mexico, Wyoming, South Dakota, there is a lake. Not a lake you can see. Not a lake on any map you've ever looked at. It's underground. It's called the Ogallala Aquifer, and it took nature somewhere between 3 and 6 million years to fill it. Since the 1950s, American farmers have been pumping from it. Slowly at first, then faster. Then faster still, as the technology to drill deeper and pump harder got cheaper and more accessible. Today, that single aquifer supplies roughly 30% of all the groundwater used for irrigation across the entire United States. It supports about 1/5 of the country's total agricultural output. The food on your table almost certainly passed through it, and it is running out. In some parts of Texas and Kansas, the water table has dropped more than 200 feet since large-scale irrigation began. 200 feet in a human lifetime. Rain falling on the high plains today averages less than 1 inch per year actually reaching the aquifer. Groundwater is being extracted at a rate measured in feet per year. Inches in, feet out. The Ogallala is being depleted at an annual volume equivalent to 18 Colorado rivers. An ancient underground reservoir is being drained. Water that accumulated over millions of years, at a rate 18 times the volume of one of America's largest rivers. Every single year. A University of Texas projection from 2025 indicates that up to 70% of the Texas Panhandle will become unusable within 20 years if current pumping rates continue. Studies suggest that up to 40% of the aquifer may no longer be able to support irrigated agriculture within decades. In Kansas, Day Zero has already arrived for about 30% of the aquifer. Day Zero, that's the term water scientists use when there is no longer enough water to pump. It's not a prediction for Kansas anymore. It's a fact on the ground, right now, in 2026, for roughly 1/3 of the aquifer's footprint in that state. Some regions in western Kansas may run dry within 25 years, according to state officials. 25 years. That is not geological time. That is within the career of a farmer working that land today. Meanwhile, in Arizona, the same legal vacuum is being used very differently. In recent years, the region has attracted industrial farming, especially water-heavy crops like alfalfa, much of it grown for export. This has drawn in large agribusiness operations tied to foreign demand, particularly from the Middle East, where countries like Saudi Arabia and UAE have leased thousands of acres of desert land and drilled into the local aquifer to grow alfalfa. That alfalfa gets shipped back to their countries to feed cattle. How is that? Growing alfalfa is banned in Saudi Arabia due to its extreme water consumption. So instead, they come in US, and Arizona's laws give those who own or lease land almost unlimited rights to extract water from the ground, with no regulations on how much can be pumped. One example often cited in reporting is Aldara, a UAE-based agribusiness that has operated alfalfa production in Arizona and runs large-scale farms across multiple countries, spanning North America, Europe, Africa, and the Middle East, which raises a bigger question. This isn't just about where food is grown, it's about how a country's resources can quietly end up serving somewhere else entirely. Now, here's where this gets strange. Because the story of a resource being drained faster than it can be replaced, that's not just a water story anymore. The Ogallala Aquifer is being depleted because we're taking water faster than nature can replace it. The electric grid faces a similar problem, not because we're running out of electricity, but because demand is growing faster than the infrastructure can expand. And just like the aquifer, the electric grid wasn't built for this kind of demand. Some AI queries can require hundreds, or even up to 1,000 times, more electricity than a traditional web search. 1,000 times, every AI response depends on thousands of powerful chips working inside massive data centers. And every new generation of AI requires training runs that consume staggering amounts of electricity. Together, they're pushing the grid in ways it was never designed for. Goldman Sachs projects a 15% compound annual growth rate in US data center power demand through 2030. with data centers consuming 8% of all US electricity by that year. Those same data centers are also thirsty, so a large hyperscale facility can evaporate millions of gallons of water per day for cooling, often drawn from groundwater or municipal supplies. In places already stressed by agriculture, tech is now competing for the same underground reserves. Morgan Stanley research projects a 49 gigawatt power shortfall in the United States by 2028, as individual data center sites scale to between 1 and 4 gigawatts each. To put that in perspective, a single 4 gigawatt campus would consume more electricity than the entire city of Houston. One data center campus. Electricity demand on the scale of an entire city. The Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas estimates that with data center electricity demand expected to double in the next 5 years, wholesale power prices could rise by as much as 50%, costs that will ultimately be passed on to ordinary ratepayers. Utilities are already warning that ratepayers could foot the bill for tens of billions of dollars in new infrastructure. And that means your electricity bill could rise, not because you're using more power, but because a data center you've never seen in a town you've never heard of is running AI systems at a scale that barely existed 5 years ago. These are not two separate crises. They are the same crisis wearing different clothes, a shared resource, water, electricity, being consumed at a rate that the infrastructure maintaining it was never built to sustain. And in both cases, the consumption is not random, it is concentrated. A relatively small number of users, industrial agriculture, hyperscale tech companies, are extracting the most, and the cost of that extraction is distributed across everyone else. The farmer in western Kansas did not drain the Ogallala alone, and the average American household did not build a data center, but both of them will pay the price. Communities in the Dalles, Oregon, have fought Google's expansion over water consumption concerns. Towns across Georgia, Indiana, Missouri, and Washington are pushing back against proposed data center facilities, demanding that technology companies fund their own power plants and transmission upgrades rather than shifting those costs onto local residents. The real problem isn't who uses the most, it's who ends up paying for it. The water crisis didn't happen in a vacuum. It happened within a system that allowed it. There is no federal law governing how much groundwater you can pump in the United States. Water allocation is governed by individual states, with each state running its own regulatory system and very little federal intervention of any kind. And in Texas, the state sitting on the most critically depleted section of the Ogallala, the legal doctrine governing groundwater is called the rule of capture. The rule of capture means this: if you can pump it, you own it. Your neighbor can drill a well on his land and drain the water from beneath yours. And as long as he doesn't physically trespass, he is protected by law. Even if his pump runs your well dry. Even if his pump drains an aquifer that took 6 million years to fill. But the most surprising part may be who's using it. Lured by the absence of regulation and long growing seasons, Saudi and Emirati dairy companies have turned huge swaths of American desert green, drilling into the Ogallala to raise hay, shipping it overseas to feed cows back in the Gulf. Foreign corporations, draining an American aquifer, completely legally. Even the farmers who built their entire lives on this water, who are watching it disappear in real time, have sought increased oversight and been told no. And on the electricity side, the pattern is identical. PJM Interconnection, the largest U.S. grid operator, serving over 65 million people across 13 states, projects, it will be a full 6 gigawatts short of its reliability requirements by 2027. An independent monitor for that grid said he has never seen it under such projected strain. The lead times for essential grid components like high-voltage transformers have stretched to 2 to 4 years. The technology consuming electricity can scale in months. The infrastructure delivering it takes decades. And the cost? It gets passed on to consumers. Utilities and grid operators have already stated publicly that rate hikes are not a question of if, only when. The truth is, There's no clean ending to this story. There are pilot programs in Kansas where farmers have voluntarily reduced their pumping, and they've slowed the decline in some areas. There are states starting to draft legislation that would require data centers to fund their own grid infrastructure. There are engineers who believe new techniques in aquifer recharge could buy decades of time. These things are real, but they are also small, slow, underfunded, and voluntary in a system that has never rewarded restraint. The science is clear, the tools exist, and nothing is moving fast enough. That green circle from the sky, the one that looks almost miraculous against the surrounding desert, is miraculous. It is also borrowed, and the loan is coming due. One final thought. Both of these systems, the water and the power, share one thing that makes them uniquely dangerous to deplete. You can't see them. You can see a forest being cut down. You can see a river running dry. You can see a factory closing. You cannot see an aquifer draining 200 feet underground. You cannot see the electricity demand from a data center 1,000 miles away quietly inflating your monthly bill. Invisibility is not the same as absence. Systems that operate below the surface, literally and figuratively, tend to collapse without warning. Not because no one saw it coming, but because the collapse is slow enough that each individual year feels fine, until the year it doesn't. The aquifer took 6 million years to fill. A third of it was emptied in just 80. The grid took a century to build. Today, it's being pushed toward doubling its capacity in barely a decade. At some point, the speed of consumption and the speed of replacement stop being a gap and collapse into the same problem.